Eckhart Tolle once said, perhaps the flower of enlightenment needs the mud out of which it grows. There's plenty of mud to deal with in this world and a lot to struggle with. Join me as we find the humor within the struggle on my podcast, Laughing in the Mud. I'm Tom Evans. Welcome aboard. Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Evans. This is Laughing in the Mud. I'm your host. And with me, as usual, is Anthony Barone.
Hello, everyone.
From Barone Media Solutions.
Thank you.
He's doing a good job. Up and coming company.
And you're one of the few people that gets it right every time.
We're going to talk about life after death today. Okay. I've read some books, and I find it a very fascinating subject. But before we get started, I just got off the phone. I was right before I left for the studio. I got off the phone with my sister Ellie in Pennsylvania, and we talked about one of my previous shows. And she's a subscriber, and she asked me. She said, "Why do you do this?" It's a good question, and there's an answer to that. On an earlier show, one of our first shows, I think, Ant, we talked about using your gifts, finding your gift and using it in your life, hopefully to help other people. I had a radio show for a year and a half with my partner, Ken. It was about current events and national security issues. We talked a lot about Ukraine. We talked about the war in Gaza and all of those type of things. And you know Ken. And he's a retired Army intelligence officer. He's very qualified, and he's top notch, great guy, and one of my best friends. And we did a radio show for about a year and a half here on Long Island, and I enjoyed it. You know, it's funny, Anthony. I was intimidated before our radio show started.
Really?
I think anybody would be. I mean, you're going on the radio. It wasn't live. It was recorded, but I remember my first time going into the studio. I'm going, oh my God, what has Ken gotten me into this time? And I sat there and I took the microphone like you have here, but it's got the big, Long Island News Radio block on it. And it's got all the world clocks in the studio. And it was new to me, but once I sat down behind that mic I'll never forget it, for the first time, I felt at home. I didn't feel intimidated at all. Ken and I outlined what we were going to talk about. I had it all on my laptop, and it turned out to be a really, really great experience. I'm sure I was a little stiff on the first show, maybe even the second. But as time went on, and I would listen to every show when it would come onto the radio, and I was always happy with our show. It was a good show, and me and Ken had a really good rapport. The yin and the yang, because I'm more colorful probably than Ken's very serious. Yeah. But it was good. It was a good contrast, and it worked. And it was a good show. And then we did that for about a year and a half. And then when it was done, Ken got busy, I got busy, and we weren't doing the show anymore. And I had people come up to me, friends would come up to me, and they said, "Hey, we miss you on the show." And I was humbled by that.
That's cool.
It really was cool. And it made me feel really good. I was flattered and I was humbled because I always felt good doing the show. And I was glad that somebody recognized that, we had a nice show. And I was at a wake for one of my best friends growing up. And two of these fellas that had actually worked on my squad when I was a sergeant in the sheriff's office, twin brothers, great guys. And they, Kevin and Anthony. And they came up to me at this wake and they said, "Hey, we miss you on the show. You really ought to do something." And I said, I thank you. I was so, appreciative of what they were saying. And then they were like, "You really ought to do something." Huh. I'm like, okay, I hear you. You were really good. I mean, you should try to do something that you're versed in. Maybe not talk about national security or the war. You should do something that's kind of up your alley, something colorful about life, and that's how I ended up coming up with Laughing in the Mud. I said, I think I'm pretty good at laughing at laughing at the turmoil of life and all the valleys that you have to go through, because we all seem to go through them. And there's a feeling of, brotherhood or sisterhood when you can relate to all the troubles that you go through, because we all go through them. And when you can find humor in that, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And people can come to my podcast and they can get an escape from the drudgery of life, and they can find some humor in the struggle, right? Mm. And that's what I decided to do after talking to those two fellas at that wake, because I felt like when I went home, I was driving home, and I said, I just had two really good friends who used to listen to my radio show telling me to do something, not just once or twice. They wouldn't get off of it. It was almost embarrassing. I was like, I didn't know what to say anymore. And then I said to myself driving home, I said, you know what just happened? I was in a funeral home. One of my best friends growing up died. And I had these two fellas telling me over and over again that I should do something. Mm-hmm. You know what that is? That's an angel. Those are angels tapping on your shoulder and saying, do this.
Yeah, it's true. I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure if it would sound
I'm in a funeral home. You're close to God.
Yeah.
These are angels. Denzel Washington does this incredible speech. It was a speech that he did, I think, at a college, his alma mater, I believe. And it's very motivational. And he speaks to these graduating students, and he tells them about not quitting. Don't give up. Find your gift, whatever it is, and use it, and go out there and you try. God loves triers. He does. You try. You don't want to end up on your deathbed with angels tapping on your shoulder saying, what the frick were you thinking? We told you. We couldn't have given you any better hints. We wanted you to do this. You're gifted to do this. Get out there and try. You might fail. You probably will fail. Most people do. But don't give up. And Denzel went on to talk about how he failed. He went to some theater and he tried to sing and act, and he failed. 30 years later, he ended up in that same theater and he did a freaking incredible play.
That's awesome.
Full circle. Don't give up. Find your gift. Get out there and try to use it. It's there. It's easy to say, there's too much competition. I mean, right now I have 10 followers. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep on trying. And I might fail over and over again. But I'm going to keep at it. Because winners, they keep trying. Losers are so afraid of failing that they don't even try. And there's one word that stops people from pursuing their dreams. One word. What do you think that word is? Can you think of it?
Fear.
Bingo. Very good, Anthony. Perfect. Fear. Fear stops people from doing so many things. And at the end of their life, they're like, oh, I should have tried. I should have did this. Fear stops people from doing things. Mm-hmm. Listen, I get nervous when I do things. I did a stand-up routine in the Arts Garage in Delray Beach.
No way, why?
Because I always thought that I could do stand-up. So I did a routine. I practiced it over and over again at my condo. And I went to the Arts Garage in Delray Beach, and I got up there, and I did my stand-up. Was I afraid?
Probably.
Yeah, damn right I was. I was nervous. But I did it anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear or being afraid. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway.
Exactly. Everyone seems to forget that part.
So
too.
Just young people that may listen to my podcast, just keep in mind, don't let fear stop you Everybody's afraid. But the people with courage, they do it anyway. So why do I do my podcast? Because I've been told, and I have a pretty good feeling, that God gave me the gift to relate to people, to make people feel good, to make them laugh. He made me comfortable in a studio. I don't know. The reason that I do my podcast is because I want to use the gifts that God gave me to help people, whether it is to make them laugh or to make them feel better about their own situation, because they hear from me that we're all in this situation. Eckhart Tolle does one of his retreats. I have it on my phone. He does a retreat, and maybe it's in one of his books. And he used to see people and talk to them about their troubles. He was like a counselor, a spiritual advisor, a spiritual teacher, spiritual counselor. And he had this one lady come into his office, and she sat down. And the first thing he said to her was, "Let me guess. Your life is complicated and problematic." And she goes, "How did you know?" "Because everybody's is. Everybody's is complicated, problematic. It's just the way that it is down here in the world. You will find trouble in this world. Jesus said it. But Jesus overcame the world. I think faith is very important. Find the gift that God gave you and don't let fear stop you from pursuing it. All right. We're going to talk about life after death, a very interesting subject. Ant, what do you think? Are you a religious person? Do you believe in God? I mean, what's your story?
Yeah, I'm Roman Catholic.
You're Roman Catholic, so am I. Yeah. I read this book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. It's about a fella.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's about a fella who got in a car accident and he ends up going to heaven for like 90 minutes. Near-death experience. And there's a lot of that. A lot of people I've read a lot of books about this. And he ends up going to heaven. And what fascinates me about these people who have experienced these near-death episodes is that their stories are so much the same. There's always a lot of, incredible beauty, incredible light, incredible fellowship with the people that you meet when you get up there, and you see people who had already passed, and they greet you when you're up there, and everybody looks radiant, and all the ravages from time in the world on earth have disappeared, and people they look wonderful and beautiful, and everybody's has this incredible radiance about them, and they're at peace and they're happy. There's no pain, there's no anxiety, there's no disease. It's all conquered when you're up there. And I've read a lot of books that these experiences are so much the same that I totally believe it. I believe in heaven. And I believe, if you follow Jesus, and if you believe that he died on the cross in order to forgive us our sins, I believe that. You go to heaven, and heaven is like the most wonderful place that there could ever be. And you're at peace finally. And you're with the people, you're with the others that left before you. You're there, and you get all of that incredible love and fellowship. I also read a book called Words at the Threshold. It's about what people say when they die. But it's more than that. It's also about, again, like 90 Minutes in Heaven, and it's also about what heaven is like. But it also talks about what people say. A lot of people say the same things when they're getting ready to. A lot of people have very similar experiences. They can see things. They can see a light. They can hear incredible music, because they say that the music in heaven is unlike anything you've ever heard. And a lot of this, the beauty, the feeling of peace and happiness, and the music is so incredible that it cannot be expressed in human terms. In this book, Words at the Threshold, by Lisa Smart, by the way, she writes about an experiment that was done on blind people. not people who were blind from birth, people who could see, but then went blind later on and had near-death experiences. And there was this group of blind people that had these near-death experiences. And what's fascinating about it is that when they were dead, whether it was 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, when they came back to life, they described everything that they saw after they died. One of them had raised, and I've heard this before, to the top of, he was in a hospital, and they were operating on him, and he died, and he rose up to the top of the ceiling in the operating room, but he didn't die. He ended up coming back. He was able to describe what the doctors looked like, what colors they were wearing. He was even able to describe what the weather was outside because the shades were apart and he could see outside. And this is somebody who hadn't seen in many, many years.
Wow.
The ravages of the world, of your time here, of the ravages of time and the world disappear when you go to heaven. I had a dream after my mom died. My mom died about 3 or 4 years ago. My dad died about 2 years prior to that. They were both in their 90s. And I love my parents very much, and they're very, very good people. I don't know, probably within a year after my mom passing, I had this dream. It's more like a vision. And I'm standing there. It was kind of like it was in the sky. Like I never looked down, but there was a lot of light. It was like puffy clouds type of thing. And my parents, my mom and my dad, were leaning out looking at me. They were leaning out a windowsill, a white windowsill. And they looked so good. They were middle-aged. And they looked great. And I think more like when I say they look great, not so much in terms of their physical appearance, it was the happiness that I could feel coming from them. They were so happy and they were so at peace, and they were both leaning out and they were looking at me, and I looked up at them and I couldn't get over it. I was so happy to see them so happy, and the radiance coming from them was so peaceful. And the only thing I could think to say at that time, I asked my mom, what did you think about your time in the world? That's what I said. And she looked at my dad and she said, I don't know how to answer that. Which is interesting. And then the dream or the vision ended. And, I wish I could go back because there's so many other things I wanted to ask. But I've also read that heaven is so incredible and the feeling of peace and happiness is so enormous. It's overwhelming. You cannot express it in human terms that you don't really, because a lot of people are like, can dead people see us? Can they see what we're up to? Can they check in on us? And I've always thought that too, And
no, they can't.
I've read that heaven is so awesome that you don't care anymore about what went on in the world. It's not important to you. I mean, I'm sure you may, I guess, look forward to seeing your loved ones when they pass, but you're not really that interested in looking and finding out what your friends or relatives are up to. And it makes sense that my mom would say that.
I felt a lot of, like, I've had my relatives come back a lot, like in some crazy.
Oh, you have?
Oh yeah, I see them sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Wow.
It's very. I think it kind of depends because I think there's also, at least in the Catholic world, I think souls have missions too. Like there's some souls, it's like you have to go and watch over this person for a period, and also time moves way faster up there than here.
Well, from what I've read, there's no time up there. Time doesn't exist up there.
Right.
That's what I've read.
Right.
Yeah, there is no time.
I don't know I don't really know how, obviously no one knows how it works. We're not dead yet.
Right.
But I've seen them before. I've seen my grandfather came to me in a dream. And it was really weird. So it was like, I'm asleep, obviously.
Right.
But he's in my bed, and I'm getting ready for work next to my bed. And it didn't click until like a minute later in the dream. I'm like, oh, he's like he's actually right here. I can talk to him. Like, this is crazy. And we exchanged some way, like just bullshit talk, really.
Right.
Just bullshit. And I'm like, oh my God, he's right here. And then the dream ended.
Yeah.
I there was more of it. I wrote it down, but it was very crazy. He's like, yeah, I'm good. You're doing good.
Yeah.
It was weird. And then when my grandmother died, that dream I had was recently, but when my grandmother died like about 7 years ago, I saw her in the what she was buried in.
Right.
At the gate of heaven. And she was like, don't cry, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then she went in, the dream ended. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then they also like poetry and ravens and such.
Yeah.
Like, Edgar Allan Poe is the Raven, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was some literary connection. So I'm at their grave, and I was just like, if you guys are here, just give me a sign.
Right.
And then I hear bah, bah, and I'm like, no. There's 2 ravens on the top of the mausoleum, like barking at me.
Right.
So, and I have so many other stories of it too. They definitely come back. It's just like how they do it. It's, you really got to be looking almost.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, that's why I think there may be like a mission, because some people are like, well, I never see my grandparents or my parents or whoever. And it's like, maybe you don't need them.
Right.
Like maybe you're on your own. Me, on the other hand, I was like, I could have used the help. So I don't know.
I was happy to see my parents, and it really made me feel like, and it was one of those dreams where you're like, oh my God, that was so real. It's more like a vision. And it made me feel good that it made me feel like they're at peace and they're happy. And that made me feel good because they deserve it. Elvis's brother, his name is Billy Stanley. He's his half brother. And he suffered this health crisis where he was clinically dead for like 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
He describes being greeted in heaven by Elvis. And they discussed faith and forgiveness. He ended up writing a book. I think it was, what was it called? It was called The Faith of Elvis. Billy Stanley wrote this book about his half brother Elvis, The Faith of Elvis. I heard him being interviewed on the Frank McKay show here on Long Island, here in New York. Frank's a great interviewer. Yeah, he's great. Yeah. And you know Frank.
Yeah.
And Frank asked him, when you met Elvis in heaven, was he the old Elvis or was he the young Elvis? And Billy was like, you know what? I can answer that. There's an answer to that. He was the young Elvis. He was the young Elvis before the world caught up with him. Because when Elvis passed, he had gotten heavy. You know, he was taking drugs to sustain so he could do all these concerts. And, you know, he had a lot of health issues at the end, and he didn't look like the young Elvis anymore that we all know from the movies. But Billy said that he was the young Elvis. They say, you know, sometimes, like in this book, 90 Minutes from Heaven, he was greeted by a group of people that he knew that played a role in his life.
Wow.
But I've also read a lot of books where you're greeted by one person. So who knows? Billy Stanley was greeted by just Elvis. This fella here, Don Piper, who wrote the book 90 Minutes in Heaven, was greeted by a group. But you're greeted when you get there. And that's kind of comforting. I like that. I sometimes wonder, like, you know, who I would like to greet, because I've got friends who have passed, really, really good friends and relatives. And I sometimes wonder who I would like to have greet me when I get there to heaven. I've also read about the possibility, I've read this more than once, that when you get to heaven, and this is scary, there's a review board that you go to, a review board to review your life. And this troubles me. I've lived a full life. I'm 63. I hope to live a bit longer, but I have lived a full life. I've done a lot. There are some things I'm a little ashamed of. And to have to go to a board is very intimidating to me. And I worry about that. But
who says that?
I've read that in several books, that there is a review board that you go to. And here's the thing that troubles me the most about it. Let's just say I'm at the review board, Ant. I'm at the review board. I'm like, all right. Okay. All right. They're like, all right. Well, how you doing, Tom? I'm like, okay, I guess. I'm a little worried, a little nervous. They're like, all right, just calm down. We're going to kick things off with your, with a kind of a seedy incident that happened at your brother's bachelor party in 1996. I'm going to be like, OMG. Really? Oh, this is so embarrassing. I don't want to go over it. Please don't. But my biggest fear about that is that somebody's going to go, let's go to the videotape. Oh my God.
Would it be a point of view or a third person?
If there's a review board, it's one thing to discuss some of my lower moments on earth, because I participated in a lot of things that, not quite. Hey, listen, you live a full life. There's going to be things that you're not too proud of. It's one thing to discuss those things, but my biggest fear is they don't have it on video and we have to watch it.
Well, I don't know if they have 4K in heaven, so at least you may not see every detail.
Oh, Lord.
I always thought...
My brother's bachelor party in 1996.
Oh, this is a real story.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it.
Shit.
But I'm not... It wasn't one of my prouder moments.
I always thought... I mean, if you're genuinely... the way I always understood it is if you're genuinely, sorry for something beyond, like, the fear of punishment, like, you're saved.
No. Listen. You go to you're Roman Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic. I go to confession. If you're somebody that wants to go to confession but you're intimidated, I love YouTube. You can go on YouTube and the priest will teach you what to do in confession. Tell you all about it. They don't want you to get too specific.
Really?
You don't have to. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be so specific about your confessions. I mean, I hurt a lot of women. You don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of exactly what you did.
Oh, it's not like therapy or anything?
No. And you can go on YouTube and they show you what to do. And, they tell you what to say and in the order to say it. And it's very, very helpful. I actually did it before I went to confession. I went to confession for the first time in 20 years about several months ago. And I went on YouTube first and I learned.
That's actually
and it made it much easier.
I don't know why I haven't thought of that. I haven't been to confession since second grade.
Right.
And I've actually only recently started to re-embrace the faith.
If you're re-embracing your relationship with God, you should go to confession. But go on YouTube and it'll teach you how to do it.
Okay.
You don't have to go crazy. Some people are intimidated because they think they have to talk about every specific detail of what they did. You don't have to really do that. You can broaden it. You can broaden it. All right. Before we go. Are you a racing fan?
Not really.
I'm not either. My brother is. Kyle Busch died.
Oh.
And he was one of their stars in NASCAR. And I believe in other racing circuits. But I don't follow racing really. But it reminds me, and God rest his soul. Kyle Busch, he's got a young wife and he's got young kids. And my heart goes out to them. There's a story with my brother when because he's always been my brother used to be a car mechanic, and he was a very good car mechanic, and a lot of car mechanics are racing fans in NASCAR. So my brother was always a NASCAR guy. So for one of his birthdays years ago, I bought him this package. It was like $500, and with that you go to the Poconos, to the Pocono Raceway in Pennsylvania, and you get to race a real NASCAR. You get to drive it.
Really?
The real NASCAR car. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You go to a little course. They give you like an hour course. They teach you about things. And then you go with an instructor and you get into this freaking incredible NASCAR car and you race it around the Pocono Raceway. Isn't that cool?
So sick.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Oh,
but my brother did it. No, my brother did it and he did it. I think his wife may have done it too.
Okay.
And but the funny thing is, as we're driving in to the racetrack, there's this and there was no race going on at the time, so it was empty. We're driving into the racetrack, and there's a big sign, and it says, and it's got a picture of a long gun, and a red circle going around it with a dash through it. And it says, no hunting. And I said to my brother as we're driving through, I'm like, why do they have to? I mean, Jimmy, it's a racetrack. I mean, why would anybody even think that you would be allowed to hunt here? He says, do you know anything about NASCAR fans? I said, no. He said, if there's no sign saying otherwise, they're gonna hunt.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's true.
They're gonna hunt.
They gotta hunt.
All right, man. That's gonna do it for us. Don't forget to go to my website, laughinginthemud.com, if you want to drop me an email or buy my book. I'm also on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook too. Thanks for watching Laughing in the Mud with your host, Tom Evans, and with Anthony. And remember, like my mom always said, if you don't laugh, you cry. Have a great week, everybody.